we'll be moving to our second topic, which says Amnesty International killings in Nigeria are there more than meets their high. And sometimes December 17th this year, the Amnesty International posted on their Twitter saying that Nigeria's government fuel escalating conflict between farmers and others as death toll nears 4,000. Hundreds are still displaced in many parts of the country. And according to them, it says it's time to end harvest of death in Nigeria. Let me start with you, Jide. What do you have to say as regards this report?
Yeah, the report that prompted it is the harvest of death, 3 years of bloody clashes between farmers and herders. And of course, by extension, claiming no solution to the untimely response to issue of human rights and security in Nigeria. Let's look at Amnesty International. It's a human rights group that was established by Peter Benenson in 1961, seeking compliance with international laws and standards. And I think that group has about 7 million followership across the world. And the question we should basically ask is, are these reports correct? Are there killings in Nigeria? Are there issues of human rights abuses? When we talk about the morale of the military, fine, that report has the capacity to achieve that. But haven't some of the soldiers, the policemen complained themselves? You see, how do we position a situation where in Metele, soldiers were killed, even though the government came out to acknowledge burying 19. For me, losing 19 soldiers, if you know the role of soldiers
in the country
and the integrity and what this Nigerian army has achieved globally, then I think I should run out of the country. If shockingly a terrorist group will overrun such, and we've had policemen kill. Look at the Zamfara killings recently. So we have militias that are empowered to subdue our processes. Fine, we acknowledge the efforts of the government. When you look at those who have been killed, when you look at those who have been displaced, when you look at the economic implications, when you look at the famine that are confronting us, different human rights abuses, then you need to look at that document. Hurriedly asking Amnesty International to go will not solve our problem. They can pack their bags and leave Nigeria today. They operate in other countries of the world.
Yes.
How do we solve these problems? I recall also that recently the army also suspended UNICEF, an agency under the United Nations paying attention to vulnerable children. But that suspension was removed. I don't think this is the best approach. When you talk of Amnesty International, they have some basic functions, which is legal advocacy, media attention, direct appeal, campaigns, research, and lobbying. So they don't just come up with figures. So another issue that is, challenging us right now, if Amnesty International came up with a report, do we have our own report to put on the table?
Yes.
As we speak today, do we know the numbers of soldiers who have been killed? Do we know the number of policemen who have been killed? Do we know the number of civilians, women, men, young and old? Do we have reliable statistics on these casualties? Or are we saying these things never happen and we should ignore same? So I think by and large, when you are going to improve on your operations, you also need to appreciate those who are helping to identify areas that require your attention. Personally, I commend the Nigerian military, but if you look at the insecurity in the country now, I think anybody should be worried. So, and I hope that we shift away from dealing with symptoms and begin to deal with substantive foundational issues that has brought us to the state we are as a people.
Okay, Ziggy, let's hear your take.
Rating organizations, international organizations, sometimes could do us a lot of damage. How do I mean? Amnesty International coming up with such battling figures as those who had lost their lives and other issues that had bedeviled the country at this point of our existence, to me, is alarming. Like he said, we are not brushing aside what they reported. Ours is to look at it, sieve it, and be able to know what we need to do, either to step up our game or to really work on those lapses so mentioned, if they are true. Nobody should play down on the sensibilities of Nigerians. One, Amnesty International have been existing over the years, and their report most times on African countries are not very palatable. Not because African countries are not doing well, but because sometimes they could be doing a harsher job. At this point in our history, Amnesty International is coming up with some stories that are not found. I'm not saying everything they said about us might not be real, but is eating up the polity, is becoming too political. Other international community, what have they reported about them? United States of America, UK, and other countries of the world, Canada. Are you saying that we don't have sleazes? Are you saying we don't have issues that needs the attention? So, if the drum begins to beat louder, we begin to ask, why all this? I am not playing down on all they've said, but I am beginning to see it as too political, beginning to cry more than the bereaved. Yes, military happened, and we know how it happened and what happened, but beginning to look at the issues, pressing it hard on the government, because they say that the government fuel the killing, and that is too deep. The cut is too deep. We should be careful about looking at international organizations beginning to put our own country in fire, stoking fire where there's none. At this point in our history, in our political life, Amnesty International shouldn't begin to stoke the fire, shouldn't begin to beat hard on us. There are other areas who do better. Why are they not reporting?
Okay, right.
And
about
all
now,
they could do is to begin to play down on all the good things about us, and brought us to this far.
Atiku made a statement as regards Buhari's response to the report by the EIs. He said that the killings of herdsmen will continue until Buhari is voted out. What do you have to say as regards that statement?
And that's why I said the whole statement is becoming too political, because one person or the other will use the statement as against what happens in the country. So the reality wouldn't be seen. The real situation wouldn't be brought to the fore. Okay? So if you are saying the government or the APC government is fueling the killing in the country, you are invariably supporting the other opposition party to use it as a campaign point.